Hey interwebs, it's JackitK and welcome back for the Pokemon Go Fireside chat. Yes, it's been a while. Yes, I missed a week. It was not a good week last week, so I guess it's better off that I left. But there was a lot of good stuff in Pokemon Go that I missed, so I got a bit of catching up to do. I might just even skim through the news real quick so I can get right onto my experiences, shall we? Start off, I can't even remember if I talked about it before, but yes, Gen 4 is out and here. Does kind of stink that I missed out on giving my early on thoughts about it, but they've been doing the ways pretty darn well. Maybe cutting it a little too short. But you also gotta keep in mind that this is probably the generation with the smallest pool of Pokemon that we got in a while. And a good chunk of that pool includes legendary Pokemon and evolutions of Pokemon from previous generations. So it's a pretty small pool and they're doing their best. One other thing that I really hope to bring more attention to in the future is the whole Adventure Sync feature. I may come back to this if we have time, maybe in a future week, but I'm actually really looking forward to this update. Essentially, they're going to bring features from the Apple Watch app right into Pokemon Go. Like, you can use this on Android. You may be able to use this without an external device. Maybe. Not enough details on that yet, but either way, it'll allow you to turn your phone off, or not off, but like that standby mode when you hit the off button once without shutting it down. You keep track of your steps and walking. Maybe if you got a text, you can check on that real quick without losing any track of your steps. And all those steps will go into extra candies, your distance for buddy candy, and distance towards hatching eggs. That's what I meant by the extra egg candy bonuses. But they also promise like weekly fitness tasks that will have their own rewards. So it'll be definitely interesting to see this feature roll out and try it out for myself, make use of it and all. Oh yeah, did I mention that this goes by steps, not GPS location? So it'll be a lot more accurate in keeping track of your steps. And if you can't go out for a day because it's too cold, too hot, the weather's too miserable, and you have a treadmill at home, you can actually earn steps walking there. It's like you have no excuse not to play Pokemon Go. You can just walk at home with something like this. And in other sort of news, as per tradition about this time of year, we did get a Halloween event. They increased ghost spawns as to be expected. They even threw a couple new Pokemon. Drifloon, a ghost Pokemon from the 4th generation, and Skuntank, a dark type from the generation. In addition, we also got a new shiny for that said Drifloon. And any other ghost Pokemon, dark Pokemon that had shiny forms before, you have an opportunity to really hunt for them again. This goes until November 1st, so even if you're only just now learning about this, you still have plenty of opportunity to stock up on Pokemon and candies, that good stuff. So that kind of brings me to the more disappointing part of this news. They actually nerfed candy rewards. You now only get candy, unlike previous Halloweens, you only get double candy for catching Pokemon. The incentives that I really liked about Halloween from previous years, like being able to get candies for one hatching Pokemon, shorter buddy distance to encourage walking, those aren't around this year. So I guess it was inevitable that they would eventually nerf it with how Niantic has gotten a lot better with having their balanced events. But I'm actually still a little disappointed about it. Oh yeah, I guess we also got Giratina, the Ghost Dragon legendary Pokemon that everyone's been clamoring for Halloween. I guess that came too. I forgot to put the note on it, but that guy's gonna be around for a while. Sometime in November. Pardon me while I Google! Yeah, Giratina will be around in raids until November 20th, so you still got a little under a month to get it if you haven't gotten one already. The big thing though, the thing I can't believe I forgot the most, they actually released a new special research that doesn't revolve around the legendary Pokemon. It involves around the Pokemon Spirit Tomb. It's basically a 2-part quest. And not to spoil away the details of the field research, but I will say it's a 2-part quest. And you don't even have to complete part 2, you only have to do a certain mission. I don't even think I have to spoil it, because if you pay attention to Professor Will's dialogue, when you get the second set of missions, he gives you a pretty good indication of what you need to do to get that Spirit Tomb. And I gotta say, I love how they implemented this. One, for those of you who haven't played the main game, Spirit Tomb kind of fits the niche of a special research Pokemon. For all intents and purposes, it is incredibly rare. You cannot find one randomly in battle in wild. To try and simplify it as quickly as possible, or simply as possible, you can technically get multiples, I guess, but not really. You get an item from an NPC that you put in a very specific location, and then you do a minigame like side mode in the game that requires connecting with other people who play the game a bunch of times. And once you do that, I think it's been a while, you may even have to deal with unique people, not just the same person over and over, which makes it even harder. But once you do that, all those hoops and hurdles in the Diamond Pearl games, you go back to that spot where you placed the item you got from that one NPC, and you get a Spirit Tomb to catch. Again, I feel it really fits the whole special research theme because it's a rare Pokemon you don't normally find through the typical means of catching Pokemon in the game it originated from. And it also fits the Halloween theme because it's a pretty spooky ghost type. And it's a dark type, the two types that they were revolving around Halloween. And in addition, they've been doing a good job implementing the lore of the Pokemon into special research. Like, that's one thing I've always given props to special research. It is typical tasks that you would do in normal types of research, but they really try their best to fit the theme of the Pokemon, and I feel this particular special research is no exception. Worth noting, I do believe you have to at least start the mission, like initialize the first dialogue with Professor Will before Halloween's end, if you actually want to get the special mission and get a chance to catch the Pokemon. You may be able to work on the research afterwards as long as you initialized it, but I'm just going to try to be on the safe side and finish it up this weekend if I could. But I'm doing this podcast, so I can't right now. And I could talk about the raid boss, but there's not really too much spectacular to it at the moment besides Dex filler, but I guess I could talk about it a little more. Giratina is a Ghost Dragon type Pokemon that appears in level 5 tier raids. With the most optimum teams, it can be taken down with as few as 3 trainers. Although obviously that number goes up if you don't have a team of the best legendaries and OP Pokemon. A more recommended number I've seen thrown around is 5 to 7. with 5 being your minimum. But it is worth noting it can be taken down with as few as 3, so from my general experience, as long as you have 5 people in a raid, you should be just fine. According to Pokebattler, with just all of his moves averaged together and a neutral weather, the best Pokemon to bring include Rayquaza, a legendary Pokemon that appeared in Tier 5 raids in the past, Salamence, the Gen 3 Dragon Pokemon, which you can occasionally find hatching out of 10-kilometer eggs, Dragonite, which we had Dragon Dratini Community Day before, and usually when there's a Kanto theme event, spawns of Dratini come up a bit more often than usual. Number 4 is Gengar with the Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball moveset. Without Shadow Claw and its most optimal moveset that you can get besides Shadow Claw, its efficiency drops down to about in between number 6 and number 7. So that's how good the Sucker Punch Shadow Ball moveset is. So still a fair choice, especially out of easily accessible Pokemon. Number 5 is Mewtwo with Psycho Cut and Shadow Ball. And number 6 is, funny enough, Latios with its Dragon moveset. Honorable mentions include Tyranitar with its Bite Crunch combo, and Absol, which you can get from level 4 tier 8s. Some more easily accessible Pokemon I could recommend, but do note that you most likely will not be able to take it down with 3 Pokemon. You may even struggle with 5 without, if you're using exclusively these Pokemon. But some honorable mentions I see include Banette, the Gen 3 Ghost type Pokemon, pretty much the strongest thing you got after Gengar. Sharpedo, a Gen 3 Dark type Pokemon, who's actually been popping up in level 3 raids now. Houndoom, a fan favorite Dark type. I don't recall if it's in level 4 raids currently, but it has been in the past, and it's fairly common to find in the wild with this Halloween event. Alakazam with Psycho Cut and Shadow Ball is pretty much your poor man's version of Mewtwo, so that could be a fair option as well. Similar thing with Jinx. If you don't have a Mewtwo with Ice Beam, and you're just so desperate to use an Ice type, Jinx could be a fair option as well. And then we get down to like the fairy types like Garvor and Gramble. And even if you found quite a few Driftlums during the Halloween event, you could evolve it up to said Driftlum. I can't believe I mispronounced the pre-evolved forms. With his Hex and Shadow Ball moveset to do a significant amount of damage as well. And even Metagross has a fair chance. If you just got a whole bunch of water boosted Meteor Match Metagross from the recent Community Day. Like, it's not something I would invest Stardust in for this raid, but if you already have a really powerful one, and none of the other recommendations I've brought up are available to you, then throwing a Metagross in for a battle party filler or a backup team might not be a bad idea. A couple other things I want to bring up include the fact that next Saturday we're going to be having a Gengar raid day where, pretty much in the same fashion of the legendary birds and their raid day before them, Gengar will be showing up in raids. And it seems like a pretty odd choice. Honestly, I still find it a little weird. But I'll go into the details of what would encourage you to come out and get this particular Gengar when we've had so many Gastly just popping up everywhere. Last, but certainly not least, it's a pretty special event that's only been recently announced. And I do call it an event, but it's more so we got news in regards to the field research for November. Sorry, I had to do a double take there. Hard to believe we're already that far through the year. But for this, a Pokemon that we've been waiting for a long time, and actually isn't even a Gen 4, is going to be thrown into the game. As you may know by now, every month we get a new set of research tasks with different Pokemon to hunt as a set of, including a research breakthrough that you get for completing a mission 7 days. Like, doesn't matter how many you do, every day you get a stamp, and we get 7 of those stamps, you get the research breakthrough Pokemon. Now that we're done with the legendary beast, they decided to throw us a little curveball and introduce a Pokemon from Gen 3 that they've never put into the game before. And that is the Bug Ghost Pokemon Shedinja. As I may have talked about in the past, Shedinja is a Pokemon that I could see why they haven't put into the game sooner. It has a pretty unique gimmick that be hard to implement into the game, where it is immune to basically all attacks, but only has 1 HP. So, unless you do super effective damage to it, you can't actually take it out, but even the weakest attack of said super effective damage will take it out. And I'm really curious to see how they implement this into Pokemon Go. In addition, I've been hearing from other sources that there's going to be a new shiny Pokemon introduced into the mix as well. Caterpie's evolutionary line is going to be getting a shiny form at the start of this research event. So that in itself will be pretty exciting to see as well. I did recently look up to remind myself how its shiny form look, and it's pretty nice. It's got perfectly fits the autumn theme that they're going for. Like, I believe Metapod's like orangish. I feel like one of the forms is gold. Like I said, I looked it up, but I actually don't even remember. Oh well, we'll rediscover together when the time actually comes. I think that's all I got for news today. Now for my experiences, which I have a lot to go through, but I'm actually gonna be rushing through, trying to do like 2 weeks of stuff in the game in the time frame of 15 minutes, if even that. Apologies in advance. It's just I'm trying to get myself into a new schedule so I can put things up more consistently. And it's going to have a bit of growing pains to get used to the new routine because I'm already behind on everything I want to get done before the work week starts again. Cutting to the point though, I guess we'll start as far back as the introduction of Gen 4. I've really been getting my catching spree going on. Going through, trying to catch as much of each of stars as possible. Considering trading for them, but when we actually got to Community Day, ironically enough, I was able to catch up on my Sinnoh starters through Community Day. About as much as finding Beldums themselves. So yeah, going through that, I got myself Chimchar in this family line, Piplup in this family line, and Turtwig in this family line. I also got pretty much every single Pokemon minus the ones that were raid/hash exclusive. If you give me a sec to pull up the Pokedex. I believe I got just about everything that's been introduced into the game, minus Shinx and its evolution line, as well as Real and Lucario. I did happen to find a single Shinx raid last week, right on Friday, like over at the college that I play Pokemon Go at. the one that gives me the most spawns out of most places that I play. I came in, I saw 2 Giratina raids and a Shinx raid. I was very tempted to go for the Shinx raid first, but I went over to Giratinas. One was just about over, the other one started a few minutes before I got there and the main group already went through, but thankfully there was a secondary group that came by and I was able to get my legendary beast, so now I never have to worry about it again. I forgot to mention, the reason I'm not really that excited about Giratina is it's got an excellent type. It's pretty powerful. But for one, just the bulkiness of it kind of puts it more on the defensive than offensive side. And we all know how Pokemon Go hates defensive Pokemon. But more so, its moves pool is just awful. It gets Shadow Claw for its quick move, which, granted, is a very good quick move. People praise Gengar specifically because of Shadow Claw when it could learn it. However, its Ghost Charge move is just terrible. And I guess its Dragon moves aren't bad either, but there's just so many good Dragon types that you don't even have to do raids to get yourself a good Dragon type. So right now, just kind of in a niche dex filler spot. Sadly enough. So I did that pretty much marathon because I did that Giratina. Pretty much ran over to the other side of the campus to do my Shinx raid. To run all the way back over to the general area and then a little bit further beyond to do a second Giratina raid. Because just why not? Might as well do the high level raids while I have a good opportunity to do so. So I got myself 2 Giratinas, not to brag too much. I've actually been having pretty good luck with catching legendary Pokemon. Like, even though I've talked time and time again about my miserable luck with Mewtwo's, when I actually get the opportunity to catch them, I've been doing pretty good, and I haven't missed a single Mewtwo, minus the very first one I ever did, back before I was still familiar with how EX rates work. And I've been having good luck with Giratina so far, 2 out of 2. Second one was a pretty close call, if I recall. Like, got down to the last ball, but always seemed to have just enough. I am hoping to get a couple more Shinx though, because I love that. That's one of my favorite Pokemon from Gen 4. I don't think it's the favorite, but out of all the Pokemon that we have from Gen 4 currently, it's definitely the one I want the most. So of course, it suffers the Mareep effect, where it should be a common Pokemon if you're following the main game's lore, but because it's a fan favorite, they make it stupid rare. Make it exclusive to raids and eggs. That's even worse than Mareep when I think about it. Plus, I guess there's the whole thing of a shiny possibly coming out of the raids, but I feel like I'm gonna have so much trouble just getting enough candies for a Shinx in general. Got the little guy as my buddy now, so if I could actually get out and walk, something that I feel like I haven't really had an opportunity to do this weekend because I've been so busy, then I actually be able to take advantage of things and enjoy it. And actually, I had to keep my freaking Baneri as my buddy for a long time because for some reason I was just not finding them. For the longest time I could only find them in raid, but of course Friday night, when I was busy with the other things, pretty much as I was walking from raid to raid, there was freaking Baneris everywhere. So I was able to evolve that, which is why I'm only stuck with the /raid exclusives and regionals. I'm very sad and conflicted about Pateron, by the way. Because for those who don't know, I live in one of those states that are right next to the border of Canada. So I was thinking, awesome! I can just take a day trip over to Canada and get a Pachirisu. I may not even have to cross the border, because some places I used to go for Pokemon Go are right at the border. Especially with Niagara Falls and that. But no, it's apparently confirmed to be in the more upper regions of the country, so it would be quite a trip to go just for a Pachirisu. But it does give me hopes for things like Con Bravo, the Canadian convention I go to, because I assume people from all over the country would come over to Con Bravo. So maybe I can actually find someone to get that regional there. I don't know, it's just the thought of it being a personal experience I could have with a regional just gets me excited. Even though I'm never going to actually use a Pokemon, just the thought that I could get one. It could be the Pokemon I get at a very special occasion, like how I got my Lunatone from a trade at Con Bravo. Little thoughts like that just fill me with joy. And man, we're talking about joy, and I haven't even gotten into the community day. For better or for worse. This Belgium Community Day was interesting. It was fine and fun overall. But man, if we're looking at it purely from a gameplay standpoint, and honestly I got it because the social aspect was kind of non-existent for Community Day today. It's just getting cold. It's getting to the point where no one wants to be outside. So as we get further and further into the winter months, I get the feeling Community Day is going to be more and more of a solo activity. And at least this time I still waved and said hi to a couple people just walking by. There's at least still people coming out, just not as much as they used to. And they're talking more and more about staying inside. So now that I explained why I'm focusing on the game and not the community aspect of it, maybe you can get an idea of why I was so stressed the first hour of it when I couldn't find a single shiny. Usually I can find my first shiny Pokemon on Community Day within the first half hour, but this time it took about 40 minutes. And man, I should have just kept my phone running on record as long as possible, because the reaction that stress had caused when I actually did finally find my first shiny was unlike anything I've ever experienced in the game in a good long time. I shrieked like a girl so hard when I saw my first shinies. Because oh man, there was actually people trying to do Mewtwo raids during Community Day, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I gotta say it for the sake of the general community. Unless it's something that's normally fairly easy to get, like a starter, you do not try to raid during the Community Day window. You try to raid before or after, because the people who are really going to be there that really help you to take down the raids, they're going to be too busy catching a Pokemon. And I say this just to try to justify the fact that we tried to do one before Community Day, but people just weren't showing up, and those same people I was with, the fools actually tried to do a raid for a Mewtwo during the Community Day window. And I'll admit, I was conflicted. I wanted to help them because I haven't gotten enough Mewtwo's myself, but I was really stressing out because it was taking me so long just to find my first shiny. And I walked over, so I even went over and walked over, even though it was out of the normal grinding path. I was going to help them, but then I saw they were trying to do the raid. They actually jumped into the raid without enough people. I'm sorry. I'm not going to waste a raid pass on something that I know is impossible to win. So hopefully that no one took it too personally. Because if they had even if they had 4 people besides myself, I would have jumped in, used my raid pass just to be a good sport, but when it's statistically impossible, even with the most optimal team, I'm not gonna jump into the raid. Especially since they were going in without a full team. But again, nothing personal. You just really gotta, if you really want to get the numbers that you normally could only find on Community Day, you're better off trying to come in to the general area where people play, like maybe an hour beforehand, or at least stick around an hour afterwards, because by the time Community Day is over, everyone's still around, so if a good raid pops up right at the end of Community Day, people will definitely be willing to help you during that time frame. But there's no need to be offended if people aren't gonna raid during the Community Day window, when that's the only time that they can catch a Pokemon, find the shinies fairly easily, and get the move. Granted, one thing I forgot to mention is how this Community Day, yes, they did officially extend the time frame you could evolve the Pokemon for the move an hour, and that was pretty much a good relief on my end, because that allowed me to really sit down and actually get the best Metagross that I could possibly find. The ones that really actually made up my team. Now I see team not as an exaggeration. I was just going through power evolving the Metagrosses that were high IV, but already high level. And just from doing those, I had like 6 Metagross. Or I had 4 Metagross just from doing that. And I wanted to evolve some shinies too, so I evolved the Perfect Attack shiny, but didn't have great IVs otherwise, and I evolved one that had pretty decent IVs overall. And between those two sets of evolutions, I evolved 6 Metagross, and still had candy left over. I haven't even gone through and finished transferring all my Beldoms from Community Day that I know I'm never going to use. And I'm still sitting at 309 candies. Granted, keep in mind it takes 125 candies to fully evolve a Beldum all the way to a Metagross, so use that for what you will to judge how much candy I actually got during the event. And it's weird because it feels like the spawns for them were actually down, even though it was weather boosted the entire time. Yeah, like the updates they made to the spawns, I feel really screwed. They definitely made it harder to catch as many of the community Pokemon as you normally could. But man, yeah, I still really appreciate the fact that it was considered windy in-game for the entire Community Day, because I wouldn't be sitting at these high IV Metagross that are already sitting at a pretty 3300 CP if it wasn't for that event. Yeah, like 3 of them are sitting at least in the level 35 range, if not high. Level 30 to 35 range, if not higher. And some of these other ones are still pretty good, like level 4. Like within the range of a Pokemon that hatched out of an egg, if not higher. And as I said before, it was also a really good time to finish up my Sinnoh starter collection. I was able to fully evolve pretty much every Sinnoh starter as well as Staravia during that from that Community Day. I waited until after Community Day to do the evolutions, but between that and the evolutions of Kricketune and Bibarel I did before, I got myself well caught up with all the Community Day goodness. And don't mind me, I'm just browsing through my Pokemon collection. Oh yeah, I finally finished hatching my Alolan Pokemon during that Community Day. The ones I got left over from the regional events, so I think a couple regionals came out from that. And still was able to get like 3 or 4 10-kilometer eggs from Community Day to hatch. But surprise, surprise, no Sinnoh Pokemon were in any of those community day eggs. And I think I can go into my overall Halloween thoughts now. Halloween's been on the fence for me. It's not what it used to be, but the event itself is still fine. I just feel like Halloween Day is going to be a lot different now. Like, I got no incentive to actually go out during Halloween and actually catch Pokemon all night because of the changes they made to the event. But I'm pretty happy with the fact that I got myself the evolution of Skuntank and Drifloon, which the evolution of Drifloon is Drifloon. Apologies, sometimes when names sound pretty similar to evolution, then I get mixed up in names. Usually I'm pretty good with them besides that. And I'm not saying that because I actually wanted a Skuntank, but I'm glad to get that Pokedex entry out of the way, because have I ever told you guys that Skuntank's cry sounds like a wet fart? I'm sorry, but it's true. It's disgusting. It's the most disgusting Pokemon in this entire game. And I'll show you. I'll prove to you. I got the game volume up as high as I can get. I'm going to pull up my Skuntank. And we're going to put this right up to the mic, so there's no room for misinterpretation. Maybe if I'm able to edit it, we can actually even just put a clip that I took. No, this is not obsessive. This is necessary for science. Actually, what the heck am I doing? Niantic has given us the glorious option to turn off music, but have sound effects on. So let's try that again. If I have to suffer through the existence of this Pokemon's cry, no one else is allowed to be ignorant of its existence. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Now, is that awful or is that awful? Number one reason why is on the lower tiers of my Pokemon fondness tier. Won't go on my way to say it's my least favorite, because I never do for any Pokemon, but if I had to make a least favorite list, it would make it. Just saying. Let's see, anything else I want to talk about? Well, besides the fact that I really wish I could go walking this weekend, and if I just ended the podcast here, I could do that. Pikachu hat that actually has decent IVs. I'm tempted to keep it now. Yeah, that's really about it, though. I guess I could give my update on the special research. I'm so close, so close. I'm on part 2 of 3, and mind you, part 3 of 3 is just getting a bunch of rewards. The part that actually gets you the Spirit Tomb, spoiler alert, catch 108 Pokemon. I'm at 105. 105 Pokemon left. Actually, let me see if I actually have enough field research just to do it now. It'd be worth it if I could do it live, but I think I'm going to be like 1 or 2 short. Hit the record button. So, still didn't catch a sucker. Is the game actually going to make me use something besides a Pokeball to catch this thing? Because it really, the Sableye does not deserve it. Nope. This will work? Yeah, 106. And it's still glowing. We may actually be able to do this live, and that'd be fantastic. And it's another Sableye. Now, I'm not going to waste any time this time, just go straight to the Great Balls. Great Throw. 107. Oh yes, yes. We still have glowing. We still have research to redeem. And it's a Sneasel. Maybe something I won't have to waste a raspberry on. I'll take a couple tries to... If it'll save me the raspberry, I will take a couple tries. I got, like, as you saw on screen, I started with 200 Pokeballs, so I am not worried about wasting them. Yes! 108! 108 Pokemon. So, I think the first time in podcast history, I will combine the separate video blogging with the actual podcast. We are going into the special research and getting our new friend. Hopefully I actually remember to take the time to edit the video clip. I did hit the record button. Oh man. Do I try to catch it normally because it's field research? And I got limited tries? You know what? I need to save my raspberries or my peanut berries. Point is, I am going to pull out the Ultra Ball for this baby because, at least while I'm using peanut berries. I don't want to waste peanut berries if I can afford to. Great. 1, 2, 3. Yes! Shoot, almost peeked the mic there. Good thing we are not going to use that audio file. We are going to use the video file. Right, JackitK? Yeah, boy. Totally justified doing the podcast streaming, even though it's already procrastinated as is. Really best of them, HP, defense, really strong. At least I don't have to worry about it being like 15 HP, 15 defense, but 13 or 12 attack, something like that. No, it's gonna be more than one stat that's not perfect. Now I just gotta find 7 Pokestops that I haven't visited before, which would have been great if I actually had the time to go out and walk today, but unfortunately, like, my time's so short that after I record this, I'll probably have to just go somewhere I'm familiar with, just so I can get the grocery shopping done real quick. But at least I got my Spirit Tomb. And I think I'm gonna end it off here. Well, I do got one more thing to talk about. But since I recorded the audio out of order, just give me 1 sec to cut away to it. Away we go for this week's featured Pokemon. Surprisingly, not Giratina. Why do you think I spent so much time talking about it as is? So, it's time for this week's Diamond in the Rough, or I would say if it wasn't actually not in the rough. A lot of people in the community know this Pokemon for how well it is, but I still wanted to highlight it because of how easily accessible it is, to levels that you may have underestimated just how easily you could get your hands on one. And it's relevant with the upcoming community Raid Day event, I should say, and that is the Pokemon Gengar. It is currently the best ghost attacker in the game, minus Mewtwo of Shadow Ball, which you can't get access to now. Unless someone forgets to change the code again. Excuse me. So odds are this will be your best bet to get a ghost attacker. And this month certainly is a good time to stock up on Gengars if you don't have a bunch of good ones already. As for the perks of it, it is considered a glass cannon, therefore it'll do a lot of damage but get knocked out very quickly, so it may take a lot more potions to make it as effective as a more generalist Pokemon, but the raw damage it can push out is very well worthwhile. And as I've noted here, it's more of a quantity over quality. So a full team of Gengars would be a lot more effective than one or two perfect IV ones. Because the stat boosts you would get from IVs aren't going to make too much of a difference when you get knocked down before you can do enough damage. Granted, I guess that argument can be made with IVs in general, but specifically with this case, it's better to have 5 good Gengars than 2 amazing Gengars, if you're following my logic here. The fact that it's so frail also gives advantage to people who make use out of the dodging mechanics in the game, because a lot of times you may actually find it more worthwhile to take a hit so you can charge up your attacks quicker, but with Gengar it goes down so quickly, it's a prime candidate for trying to dodge every single attack you can. The charge attacks, I should say. I mean, you could try to dodge fast moves, I suppose, but then you never dish out the damage. But the key to make the most use out of a Gengar is to take your attacks, have a bunch of them rather than put all your Stardust in 2 of them, do a bunch of attacks, and try to dodge every single charge attack. That's how you would get the most out of your Gengar. And there are situations where that can apply to any Pokemon, but it's especially true for glass cannons like Gengar. You may be wondering, JackitK, where do you get this amazing Pokemon? Short answer, everywhere. With this whole Halloween event going on, you should have been seeing a lot of Gastlys floating around. I recommend catching as many as you can, because not only will increase your chances of finding a good IV one to power up and evolve, we're getting extra candy during this event, so you should be well stocked up on candies before you even get to the big kicker. This is the other way you get Gengar. The upcoming Gengar Raid Day that's coming up this Saturday. Now, unfortunately, the big highlight to Gengar, the thing that made it considered such a popular choice, is this legacy move, Shadow Claw. If you never heard of this move, that's because it was only available during the first generation of Pokemon Go. Therefore, if you didn't evolve your Gengar then, or you swapped moves around, you have no opportunity to get this move. The good news for you though, late game players, people like me who didn't get Gengar before Generation 2, or didn't get enough to get a Gengar with Shadow Claw before Generation 2, the upcoming Raid Day may suit as a good alternative for you. Granted, the fact that his charge move is Psychic is not a good thing. You want to get that swapped over to Shadow Ball as quickly as possible. And it's kind of a shame because since every Gengar is going to have Psychic, you're pretty much guaranteed to waste at least a couple charge TMs trying to get Shadow Ball. However, as was more recently announced, this Gengar is going to get not 1 exclusive move, but 2. So it gets the exclusive charge move of Psychic, but it also gets the quick move of Lick, which performs very similarly to Shadow Claw. So similarly that it'll be situational which move is the better one to have. So if you have Shadow Claw already, just don't get rid of it. But if you don't, feel free to pick one up during Raid Day. And I've been hearing mixed things that you can actually even evolve. Do I even want to say it? Because I'm just not sure. But I've just heard secondhand. According to the Pokemon website, not Pokemon Go's website, Pokemon's website, the people who made this IP in the first place, you can evolve a Haunter into a Gengar during the 3-hour window of Raid Day and get both exclusive moves. I am not 100% sure if this is actually true or they just copy and paste from Community Day without realizing the difference. But if you follow me on social media, I will let you know as soon as possible if that's the case. But I would just recommend trying to follow some of the other popular Pokemon Go medias and see if you can actually evolve. But even if you can, raiding for the Gengars would be pretty good because you get the IV set in a good range and it'll have both those moves. The effectiveness of Shadow Claw / Lick Gengar should be well worth the TMs that you use to get said moves. Again, with Shadow Claw, it's about as effective. It's the most effective Pokemon that you can get without raiding for legendary Pokemon. On the off chance that you're listening to this podcast way in the past and missed all these easy ways to get all the Gengars and Haunters and Gastlys that you could dream of, I do have some recommendations for Gengar hunting. For one, they do sometimes show up in the raid rotation as a tier 3 raid boss. Now, I want to make the distinction right here because I can't believe I forgot. Gengar during the raid day is going to be a tier 4, and you'll need at least 3 Pokemon to actually do the, or 3 trainers to actually do the raids. But that's if you have the most efficient things possible. Gengars outside of this raid day, appearing in normal raids and that, will be tier 3, which is technically soloable, but it's not going to be an easy thing to take on by yourself. So if you're not fortunate enough to have a good enough team to go raiding, my next best recommendation would be to go out at night in a safe, well-lit area, and preferably with friends, hunting for ghost type Pokemon. A lot of ghost and dark types actually have a better spawn rate later in the evening / early morning, so that could be your best bet to actually find them. I know when I get up for work, I usually see at least a Shuppet or 2 at the 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. time frame that I wake up. They were also pretty prominent during the Kanto event that we had a little bit ago, so my point being is just you had plenty of opportunities to get Gengar, and if you're listening to this now, you still have some time to stock up on Gastlys and their candy before that goes away. But if you miss out on that, and even if you don't, keep your eyes open for the Gengar raid day. See if you can get a couple friends to just go around town and do some raids with you. It'll be about the same difficulty, if not easier, than the previous raid days, so if you couldn't get a large enough group to do the legendary birds, you may still be able to get enough friends together to do the Gastly / Gengar raid day. Point being, there's a lot of opportunities to get Gengar and his family currently, so I would take advantage of it now. If you are unfortunate to miss out on said opportunity though, my next best recommendation for hunting for Gengar is to keep an eye on the news for when it appears in tier 3 raid bosses, or to just go out during the time frame where ghost Pokemon are more likely to spawn. While I'm talking about more likely to spawn, I guess it's worth knowing that Gastly is a poison ghost type, so if you're looking for weather boosted Pokemon, your ideal times to hunt are in cloudy and foggy weather. One of them is a lot more common than the other from my situation. Thankfully, because of that double type, you don't have to wait for the rarest weather condition to possibly find those Pokemon. It is worth knowing that the spawn rate for weather boosted Pokemon got nerfed a bit, so hunting in specific weather is not as reliable as it used to be, but at the very least, it could give you an advantage. If not in making the Pokemon easier to find, then making it easier to find a good level, good IV Pokemon, because the IV and level boost still applies. Oh yeah, I should probably go over what to bring to the Gengar raids. So, according to Pokebattler, funny enough, just like your Gina, even though it's a tier 5, With the most optimal moveset, in theory you can take it out with only 3 trainers. However, that is again with the most optimal Pokemon and assumingly high levels. Like, I think Pokebattler actually assumes that all the Pokemon in your party are level 30, so you don't have to quite max them out to take it down with 3, but you do have to have some pretty rare stuff like Shadow Claw Gengar or Shadow Ball Mewtwo, and etc. Actually, this is a pretty interesting list, so I'm gonna go give you guys the countdown right now. We have obviously number 1 is Shadow Ball Mewtwo, but since Gengar is also poison as well, on top of being a ghost type, you can just use Confusion as your quick move for the most efficiency, because basically how it works is Psycho Cut prioritizes charging up your move, while Confusion focuses on damage. So since it's weak to Confusion, Confusion is your more optimal move. Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball Gengar is your second best choice. And if we were to go with the most accessible moveset, Hex and Shadow Ball, it does drop down to about between number 6 and number 7 in this list, but it's still a fair choice, especially if you don't get a Mewtwo or a full team of Bite Crunch Tranitars, which is obviously your next best thing. Alakazam actually makes the list on number 4, and there's been quite a few times where Abras were everywhere, so hopefully that's a fairly accessible option. If you're curious, the best moveset to use is Confusion and Future Sight, and Espeon follows right underneath it with the same moveset for number 5. Number 6 is Metagross, which, if you're around for a Community Day, you should have a good number to use. Sudden Headbutt and Meteor Smash, the Community Day move, is your most optimal moveset. Yeah, even though Gengar is not weak to Steel, and Metagross does have psychic moves, Mirror Match is just that good that it still outperforms. Also because Psychic sucks. In case you haven't noticed, it's the only time when Psychic is a recommended move, the top of your moveset, is when the Pokemon has no other option for said Psychic move. But then again, that's just pretty much how the meta of this game works. The game tends to prefer 2 charge moves that you can use twice rather than single charge moves that only have 1 use but are a little bit more powerful. Other honorable mentions for Gengar Community include Houndoom, fairly accessible for the reasons that I've mentioned when going over Giratina. Same thing with Banette. If you have a Legacy Executor, one that has the quick move Confusion and Psychic, I think the Prior is the Legacy move. Yeah. Though the next best moveset of Extrasensory and Psychic is still pretty darn good. Absol, Drifloon, for the same reason I mentioned before. Dragonite, surprisingly, is like the 20th most effective Pokemon if you don't know the moveset in neutral weather. I'm sure that will change the moment you put any sort of factor in the Pokebattler that'll allow it to narrow it down. Like, let's see how the Sucker Punch Shadow Ball one performs. Yeah, like, moveset makes a huge difference. I'm not sure if I talk about this enough on the show, but I just punched into Pokebattler, Sucker Punch, Shadow Ball, and Houndoom jumped all the way up to number 6, and Gengar, even with most optimal moveset, bumped down to number 9. So I can give you guys recommendations all day, but I highly encourage you all to just go into Pokebattler yourself and take a look. Like, if you make a Patreon account, like, you don't even have to pledge your Patreon, just make it an account. You can actually put in your Pokemon specific to what you have, moveset, levels, etc., and see how they compare to each other, because certain Pokemon are going to be less useful if they're not your strongest ones. Yeah. See, like, Cacturn didn't make the list at all, but it comes up in, like, number 10. So you may even be able to find a place to use that if you're struggling for highly rare and powerful Pokemon. Obviously, though, don't use that thing against a Sledge Bomb user. Yeah, and that's all that's really there. I'm hesitant to even mention Rhydon, because it's the very bottom of this top 25 for the neutral moveset. But, you know, maybe if it's sunny out, if you're in the part of the hemisphere where winter's not a thing, then yeah, like, Groudon or Ground-type Pokemon have their uses in clear weather, because keep in mind, it is Poison-type, so it is weak to Ground-type moves as well. So if it's sunny and clear, you always have the option to use your Groudons or Rhydon. But this is why I just keep recommending that you just go to this site and look at for yourself. I can give you general recommendations, but the specific of what Pokemon work best in which exact situation will vary significantly. And I've been rambling on for pretty long as is, so I think it's about time to wrap things up. I didn't even do the whole Sinnoh event countdown, Go Ranger countdown that I usually do, but we've been going pretty long as is, so unless this thing loads up right away, I think we may have to skip that segment. Even my voice is kind of going from talking for so much. Yeah, just keep in mind what I mentioned earlier about the Halloween event. That's not gonna last for too much longer, but you have until the 20th of November to get the legendary Pokemon. I think as long as you remember that distinction, you'll be fine. That's all I got, so thank you all for tuning in. I'm on the interwebs and various sites and various forums doing various forms of entertainment. All which that are PG. PG-13 depending on who you ask, but not that type of entertainment. So I highly encourage you to check out my site, which link to is in my social media. If you search Jacket Stuff, spelled the same way as my name of JackitK, but take that K and replace it with some stuff, and you get to my Twitter, and that should get you to my site, which has a good overview on things. I should start promoting the Google Plays and that. Rating on audio sites like iTunes and Google Play is supposed to help make things more accessible, so that is always appreciated. I was just waiting until I got a little bit more high quality with my content to really start plugging those things. But I do got YouTube, which I'm going to be putting videos up, which you can find access to on my site. Though I think if you search JackitK YouTube, you should be able to find it fine too. Every month I actually do this podcast live on Twitch. If you can find under the